Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing a bit of a different video. I've never really done anything school based before on my channel, but I am in year 11. I have got my GCSEs really soon. They start in like 6 weeks. So I thought I would do this revision video to help out any other year 11s who haven't figured out how to revise efficiently, or just for anyone who's interested in seeing how different people might revise, or even if you're not in year 11 and you're just watching this, hi. So yeah, I'm just going to do this video to show you how I revise and what works for me. A lot of the things that I do don't really work for other people. I have quite a specific method of working that isn't that effective for everyone, but it works for me and it might work for you and it might not, but either way, hopefully this video is informative and helpful in some sort of way. Just for a bit of backstory, my options that I do are food preparation and nutrition, German, ICT and geography, and then I do the core subjects, obviously maths, English, science and RS, religious studies. I am aiming quite high. I would like to get 7s in everything, which is an A in the old grading system. Whether that's achievable I'm not too sure, because geography exists and geography sucks and I hate geography, and German also exists, which is hard, and other subjects exist which I did well on in my mocks but I might not do so well on in this real GCSE exam situation. So we'll see what happens. I'll probably do a GCSE results video when I do get my results in August. Hopefully I'll be happy. I am working hard, but what happens happens, and as long as I know I've tried my best I'll be happy either way, hopefully. So yeah, let's just get started and I'll tell you how I revise for my GCSEs. So I'm going to split this video up into 3 sections. The first section will be how I make my notes, the second section will be how I learn the content, and the third section will be what I do the night before an exam. So with how I take my notes, I don't really do it in the ways that most teachers recommend. Most teachers say, oh, do mind maps, do flashcards, stuff like that. They do not work for me. Flashcards are my enemy. I hate flashcards. Flashcards, don't go along with them. I don't know what it is. I think it's because I'm quite an organised person. I don't like having loads of little bits of paper just floating around with information on and stuff. I like having everything in one place, so flashcards don't really provide that for me. And with mind maps, I just don't enjoy doing them, and I like to enjoy my revision as much as possible because, you know, generally speaking, revision isn't exactly an enjoyable activity, but I would like to make it as not horrible as possible, and mind maps make it horrible for me. I just don't enjoy them. So what I do is I have an A4 notebook like this for every single subject. So I have one for maths, one for English, one for chemistry, but like one for chemistry, one for biology, one for physics, one for food, one for geography, one for German, one for ICT, one for RS. And then within that notebook I will just write down basically the whole syllabus, everything I need to know for the exams, and then I just have everything in one place and I don't need to be looking across different revision guides, different notes and everything. It just makes my life a lot easier. So the main way that I make my notes so that I have everything in the notebook is using revision guides. I do have a revision guide for most of my subjects. I don't have one for maths, and the one for geography that I have is absolutely terrible, so I basically don't use it. But the one I have for science and RS, and don't have a revision guide for English either actually, but the ones that I do have subjects for, I will use them as revision guides and like take notes from them and put them into my notebook. Just write down all the key definitions and stuff like that. I'll show you in a second how I organise the notebook. Yeah, for geography, because the revision guide's so bad, I have lists that my teacher gave me for like everything that we need to know, and then I use the revision guide a little bit because it's got some stuff in it, and my exercise books, and I just try and transfer that information all into the notebook that I have for geography. So within my notebooks, to make sure that I can learn efficiently from them, I do find colour coding very useful. So across all of my subjects, if I write something in pink, that means it's a definition. If I highlight something in yellow, that just means it's a keyword. And then for each subject I have different like colour coding as well. So for example, physics formulas are in orange, maths examples are in green, stuff like that. So I will use my biology notes as an example for now because this is the only subject that I finished my notes for. So as an example here, I'll use the first topic of homeostasis topic in biology. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see this, but I always do titles in blue capital letters. As you can see here, definitions are in pink, and then I just write down key information with keywords highlighted in yellow. Another thing that I find really effective is flowcharts for methods. So for example here I have the nervous system and I have it in a flowchart to see all the different stages of it so that it's not just a big chunk of information and I can separate it out into my brain. And some other things that I'll use flowcharts for is like geographical processes, like how tectonic plates move and stuff like that, or like for science practical experiments as well. I find them really useful to write out. Another thing that I also find really useful when trying to learn like lists of things is, I can't remember the word, is it a, begins with A I think, it's not a pseudonym, it's like a, not an acronym, there's a word, and you know when you like you know the colours of the rainbow, there's like one. Anyway, for example, the reactivity series in chemistry, I do pumpkin spice lattes can make Christmas zoom in happy cheer, and that stands for potassium, sodium, lithium, etc, etc in the reactivity series, and that's a way for me to remember it. Don't know if that was very clear. Can't remember what the word is, but it does begin with A, I think. If you know it, comment down below please, because that's going to annoy me. Another example of it is here for the classification system thing here. I have Kim Possible can only fight green snakes, and that's for kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus and species, for classification of animals, species, yeah, that kind of stuff. So yeah, for science I make sure to split up everything into subheadings so that everything's really clear about what it's going to be about. So generally speaking, I'll use the headings in the revision guide as the headings in my notes, but sometimes I'll like mix it up a bit if I feel like it's appropriate. So yeah, like I said about colour coding, here's an example in my physics notes. So for this equation here, oh where am I? For this equation here I've done it in orange, and then throughout all of my physics notes equations are in orange so that they stand out to me quickly and I know what's equations and what I need to know and stuff. Also, another thing that I love that helps me remember stuff is formula triangles. I don't know if you've seen them before, you probably have. But for example, the one that I just showed you links energy, power and time, and it's energy equals power times time. So I'll draw it in a little triangle with E on the top, P and T on the bottom, and then that's a way obviously to remember the formula and its rearrangement. So when you cover up the E, it's P times T, when you cover up the P, it's E divided by T, and when you cover up the T, it's E divided by P, and that's how you remember the formula and its rearrangements. And to help me remember those triangles and the order they go, I'll make up little rhyme things in my head. So for example, for EPT I have done Emily plants trees, so I remember what order the triangle goes in, because if I mess the triangle up then I'll mess the formula up. But yeah, generally that is how I will make my notes. So I will use revision guides and my own notes and condense it down into key information and write that in notebooks specific to each subject and under headings specific to each topic of the subject. I bought all of my notebooks at the beginning of September, and I started making some notes for my November mocks, some for my February mocks, and some notes I've only started making recently because it just didn't really fit what I needed for those mocks. So now onto the second part of the video, which is learning the content. Now I'm obviously never going to be able to learn the entirety of the syllabus of every single subject by the 14th of May, which is when the exams start, but I will try my best to learn as much as I can. So what I like to do is I obviously make all my notes and information absorbs into my brain as I do that, and pretty soon after that I like to read over the notes, make sure that I understand everything. If there's stuff I don't understand, I'll either look further into it online or I'll ask a teacher the next day, because I feel like the key to doing well is understanding the content. And that might seem obvious, but sometimes you like learn stuff but you don't actually understand it, particularly with physics I find this, and geography. Like I learn stuff, like I learn about coastlines and erosion, but has it actually gone in about why this happens and stuff? Not always. I definitely make sure I understand why things are happening. Obviously I don't want to go too deep into it. If you don't need to understand why, then don't understand why, because you don't want to learn more than you need to learn. But if it helps you to learn stuff and it would be beneficial, like make sure you understand why things happen. Like for example, in physics, when you learn about the national grid with the step-up transformers and step-down transformers, don't just learn, oh, there are step-up transformers and step-down transformers, learn why they are there, because that's what's going to get you the further marks. So learn that they're there so that the voltage is faster as they go through the wires, which saves money and stuff, but then they can't be too high when they go into the houses, because otherwise it's dangerous, you know, that kind of stuff. Make sure you learn like the key meanings behind concepts. Yeah, I just make sure I understand stuff. And then what I love to do and what I find extremely useful, and I know that not everyone will be able to do this, but I get my mum to test me on stuff, and she's like more than up for testing me on stuff, which I'm extremely grateful for. Like, it's very helpful. But yeah, for me, I feel like once I've learned the content, I need someone to recap the content with me so that I'm like 100% sure that it is in my brain and that I do know what I'm talking about before I attempt like questions on it. So I'll just give my mum my revision notes, and then she'll just go through it and ask me questions on the notes that I've made and like definitions and stuff. and then that is a really good way to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. And then obviously the stuff that I'm not so sure on, she'll come back to at the end and test me on that again. If you don't have a parent or sibling or anyone that's willing to do this with you, I would definitely recommend doing it with a friend, because if you both test each other on stuff, it's likely that you have different strengths and weaknesses, so something that one of you understands, the other one won't, and then you can bounce ideas off each other and stuff. So generally I do find revising with the assist of someone else very beneficial. And then after my mum has tested me on stuff and I'm sure that I know content, is when I like to do practice questions on it. I know that almost every teacher says practice questions are your best friend, practice questions, that they're amazing and stuff. Personally, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of practice questions. Like, obviously my mocks and stuff were useful to see the format of stuff, but I tend to just answer practice questions in my head. Like, I'll see a question and I'll be like, would I be able to answer that in the real thing? But I don't actually attempt answering it, which maybe isn't the best thing, actually, thinking about it. I definitely do find questions and attempt to answer them, whether it's in my head or on paper. Harder ones I will do on paper and then hand them in to a teacher to mark. But yeah, practice questions are very good. There's often some in revision guides, or your teachers are probably more than happy to give them to you, or you can just find them online. Maths practice questions I particularly find useful. I think they're really important, because if you've learnt a math skill, you always need to apply it into a question, because if you just know something, like if you know the quadratic formula, that's no use if you don't actually know how to apply it into a question. So that's what I find really useful for maths, and I always do maths practice questions. Another thing that I haven't mentioned yet, which I'm really surprised about because they're very important to me, is songs. I make up my own songs to learn quotes. So for English and for RS we need to know quotes. I know that everyone hates learning English quotes and it's like the bane of everyone's existence. I hate that phrase. Why did I just use that phrase? But anyway, yeah, quotes are really not fun to learn, so I try and make them fun to learn by making up songs. For my Macbeth and A Christmas Carol questions, I just made up little raps that are like catchy. I haven't like completely finished them yet because I've got other quotes to add, but that really helped me and I just couldn't forget them. I didn't even think of the raps for like 3 months because they weren't in the upcoming mock that I had in February, but I still remember them because they're just catchy in my head. Obviously that won't work for everyone, and some people's brains don't remember song lyrics and stuff, but my brain has so many song lyrics in it, it's actually crazy, so it definitely works for me. So yeah, sometimes I'll just make up my own little tune, but for my Inspector Calls quotes for English, I actually fit the quotes to a already existing song. So there's a song that I absolutely love by Cat Dahlia called Crazy, and I fitted my Inspector Calls quotes into that song, and that is how I learned that, and I still remember it, and it's a very effective way for me to remember it. Yeah, I'll just sit in the exam and look at the question and just go through the rap of the song in my head really quickly and think, oh, what quotes can I use, and I'll write down any that I might use. And yeah, I do the same for RS quotes, so quotes from the Bible or quotes from the Quran I will put into a song, and that is how I remember them. Also, you know, earlier I was talking about the word beginning with A. Don't think it does begin with A, and I think it's called a mnemonic. Maybe that's still wrong, but I think that's what it is. Okay, so now on to part 3 of this video, the final part, which is what I do the night before an exam. Now obviously I haven't sat a real exam yet, I've just had my mocks, but I did have 2 sets of mocks and I am quite proud of how I did in them, and I found that the methods that I have been doing have been working, so I am continuing them for the real thing. So the night before an exam, when I get home from school, I will have a little break, just because, you know, I might have had an exam that day and I need like a bit of regeneration in myself. But then I will look through the notes that I've made and just read through them and read through them and read through them a lot. I know a lot of teachers say reading isn't good. I basically just go against everything the teachers say, because they say, oh yeah, reading doesn't actually make it go into your brain, but I just don't seem to fit the patterns of what teachers say is good methods of revision. So this is just me, it might not be for you, it might not be for a lot of people, but it's what works for me and that's what this video is about. So yeah, I just sit there and read all my notes and go over it and stuff, and then if my mum is available I will get her to test me. And that's mainly before dinner, and then after dinner I will look over my notes again, maybe do a couple of practice questions on the stuff that I find the hardest. And then at about 8:30, 9 o'clock I will start getting ready for bed. So then at about 9:15, which is usually when I'm ready, because I usually stop working at 9 and then I have to do all my skincare routine and brush my teeth and stuff, I will just sit in bed and I'll have my notes in front of me, but I'll have the book closed, and then I'll just go through all the key information in my head that I have been learning and all the stuff that I find the hardest. So stuff that I'll often go through is, obviously it depends on the exam that I have, but I'll go through formulas or quotes, like the songs I'll go through in my head and make sure that they're completely like solidly indented into my brain. And yeah, I'll just go through all of the key stuff, and then I will check over my notes again one final time just as a little refresher, and then at 9:45 is when I will completely stop working, and then that's my time to like chill, and I'll just read in bed. I find that watching videos after that sort of time, like watching YouTube videos, TV or whatever, I don't really like. I tend to like reading after that time because it just puts me in a much more of a relaxed mindset and makes me ready for sleep. So that is how I revised for my GCSEs as of present. I hope you found it somewhat useful if you are in year 11 or if you're just in any kind of exams. If not, and you just watched this for the fun of it, then hope you enjoyed. And don't forget that obviously you don't have to follow any of these tips that I'm giving you. These are just what works for me, and it doesn't work for everyone, and I completely understand that because other people's methods don't work for me, as I've said before, you know, in this video. So I hope you enjoyed it anyway. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave any comments down below of other revision videos you might want to see, or if you want to see more specific, like subject specific videos, let me know. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!